What did you say?
No, she's speaking in Fulani. She's talking about the Islamia starting.
Okay. I'm also like at the same time I'm trying to I'm trying to work on the YouTube streaming. So it's going to be streaming YouTube live. So because of that, I just want to be a bit patient for me till I'm done with setting the YouTube live. Then we can start. Okay. Sheikh Abdulaziz, salam alaikum. Are you here? Sheikh Abdulaziz, salam alaikum. Sheikh Abdulaziz, salam. No, we'll be starting. Can you just give us a short recitation before we start our tajweed process?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان ليأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتكوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون. Okay.
Oh, how sorry I had to interrupt you. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you so much for the marvelous recitation. So without wasting much of our time, we'll be going straight to the point. So we promised to start our tajweed classes, and we'll be starting our tajweed classes, inshallah, with a presentation I created for the classes. And about the tajweed classes, this set of slides I'm using for our tajweed classes, I'm just writing it, like I don't have everything on ground. So I can share the link to you after the class if you need it. I can share it on request. It's we admit that like if you want to use it for any other purpose, you can use it, but like so far you don't remove the logo, it's fine, inshallah. So we'll be starting with the first part of the slides. It says what is tajweed, of course, because the topic that we're treating today is tajweed, and we are just doing more of the introductory class because this is the first tajweed class that we're having. And wait, I want to ask, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, yeah.
Yes, okay. You are.
Okay, so like because this is the first tajweed class that we're having, so we'll be doing more of introductory and explanation of what tajweed is and like the basic rules in tajweed for a start. So what is tajweed what is tajweed? So in simple words, tajweed is coming with good, like being close to perfection. That's what tajweed means. And in detail, like the terminological meaning, it is a science. What is tajweed? Tajweed is a science with which we know how to give every alphabet its right and what it deserves in terms of attributes, elongation, and so on. So tajweed is one that tells us, oh, this is the science of reading Quran. Like this is how Quran is read. Like this, like you want to get close to perfection in the recitation of the Quran. The science with which you learn how to get close to the perfection in the recitation of the Quran is what is referred to as tajweed. And tajweed is what? It is a science that guides you to know how to recite the Quran perfectly. I think we said that just now. So what is the goal of tajweed? Like, what does tajweed want to achieve? Do you understand? So the goal of tajweed is to reach the limit of perfection in the recitation and articulation of the book of Allah, like is revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we are learning tajweed, like the reason why we're learning tajweed, what we intend to achieve, like what tajweed has come to like make firm. So the goal of tajweed is what? Is to reach the limit of perfection in the recitation of and articulation of the book of Allah, like it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's the mission? It could also be said that like tajweed is the goal of tajweed is to guard your tongue from making mistakes in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'd have loved to give examples, but because of my audience, like you guys don't really know much of Arabic, I'd have loved to give you like some like examples of like mistakes in the Quran, why some people will make tajweed mistakes in Quran, and some of these mistakes can translate to change in meaning that sometimes even translate to opposite of what the verse is actually saying. So sometimes you see some people reciting without tajweed, making some mistake, reciting ha with ha, hence changing the meaning of the word, and hence meaning something different from what is actually intended. So to avoid all of this, it's best that you learn tajweed so that you recite the Quran as perfect as possible. And for students, you guys are already like have asatis and they correct your like pronunciation. They listen to you already, so that's fine. So now you want to know the theoretical part of it. That's the goal of this course. So this course is not teaching you that this is how to pronounce ha, all of these things, or like this is the idhar. No, of course, we want to tell you what idhar is. We want to explain idhar to you. We want to explain all of these things to you. But we are not correcting your recitation here because like your ustaz already does that. What we are doing in this class is to teach you the theoretical aspect of tajweed, such that when you're reading something, you know, oh, this is the rule. This is why it is wrong. This is why this is this, and so on. So what's the Sharia ruling on tajweed? It's very important that every student of tajweed knows the Sharia ruling on the knowledge of tajweed. There's no doubt that the position of tajweed in Sharia is fard kifaya. What is fard kifaya? Fard kifaya is a kind of like compulsion in Sharia. That means that, okay, this thing is compulsory, but not compulsory for everyone. Okay? So fard kifaya is saying this is compulsory, but it's compulsory for, if some people are doing it, others are free. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it means so far there are a group of people that are still learning tajweed. Those that don't learn it, like it's not compulsory upon them anymore. Do you understand? But the implementation of tajweed for someone that already knows tajweed, fardu ain, is compulsory. Do you understand? It's compulsory. So if it means if you know tajweed and you don't recite Quran with tajweed, then that's a sin on you. Do you understand? But if you don't know tajweed and you've not learned it, what did you say? What did you say? Okay, so the knowledge of implementing tajweed after you've learned tajweed is fardu ain, is compulsory upon every Muslim. So the next one, what are the rules of isti'adha and basmala? So today we'll be taking two things. We'll be doing the rules of isti'adha and basmala and the rule of joining two surahs. So because I said it's introductory class, we're not going into specifics. In the next class, we'll go to like ahkam nun sakna inshallah. But for now, let's just do the rules of isti'adha and basmala. So if a reciter wants to recite, he wants to start with what? Isti'adha and basmala and a new surah. What is isti'adha? Isti'adha is a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. What is basmala? Basmala is bismillahir rahmanir rahim and the surah. So it means if I have like, I want to say a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, and I want to read the surah, for example, qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Okay, so how can I do this? How many possibilities are there? So there are 4 possibilities. The first is what? Reading the isti'adha, basmala, and the beginning of the surah separately. So what example of this is? A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Can you see? I started isti'adha separate, basmala separate, and the first verse of the surah separately. The second one is what? Joining isti'adha and basmala together only. For example, A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. That's the second way. You join isti'adha and basmala together and you recite and start with the beginning of the surah. The third method you could go is joining basmala and the first verse of the surah only. For example, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. The fourth one is joining all the three. What surah should I use with this? I want a suggestion so that it's going to be like a conversation and not more of a lecture. Can somebody suggest a surah I should implement this for? Who suggests a surah?
Surah Al-A'la.
A'la. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. So it's permissible to recite like that. So as a student of tajweed, you have to understand like most of recitation too. So it means now you are aware that when you're starting a surah, Bismillah, A'udhu Billahi Shaitan Rahim, it's permissible to join A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan Rajim, Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and the new surah you're about to recite, or make everything separate or join any two. That's how we were able to form all of these four possibilities. To the next slide. So what are the rules of joining two surahs? That's where a problem comes now. Okay, when I end a surah and I'm to go to the next surah, like what are the possibilities? Like how can I do it? Like which of them are permissible, which of them are not permissible? So if a reciter wants to read Basmala between two surahs, okay, yeah, you want to recite Bismillah between two surahs, like how many ways can he do this? There are three ways, and one of the ways what is not permissible. So there are three permissible ways, and there's a way that is not permissible. So you can are you there? So you can reading the last verse of the previous surah and Basmala and the beginning of the new surah separately. So it means you are reading the last verse of the previous surah, you are reading Bismillah and the beginning of the new surah separately. So using this reading, okay, so for example, if you want to end surah to, I'm coming, a minute. Okay, so if you want to read the first permissible way of joining two surahs, when you read the last surah and Bismillah, when you read those two, you stop, then you move to what? The next surah. For example, let's read with surah to, which surah we not use? We've not used Al-Kafirun. Okay, so let's use surah to Kafirun. Eh? You use Ikhlas. We use okay, let's use surah to Nas. What's the last verse of surah to Ikhlas? Is that correct? Is that not correct? Is anybody following me? Hello, are you guys there? Hello? I want to be sure that you guys are following.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are here. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now we intend to join surah to Falak and Ikhlas together. I think I should do the example. I'm coming. Look at the last verse of Surah Al-Falaq. Wa min sharri hasidin idha hasade. That's how you recite normally. But there is this actually had the last alphabet actually ends with a fatha. So if I'm to recite this, are you following? If I'm to recite this, hello?
Hold on.
Meeting in Mike Inky. Muna jin surutun ki.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ana.
Have you muted your mic? Okay, so one of the first permissible method is what? Joining basmala and the first verse of the surah. Okay, so the first method is what? Joining join the last verse of the previous surah with basmala and stopping. This one, the first rule is that is permissible is what? Joining all the three recitations together. For example, where is it? Okay, this is it here. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. Joining all three. So you read the last verse with the haraka on the last alphabet, because normally when you're reading with Aridus or whatever, like you stop on the last this thing with sukun, but you don't. When you are to join, you call this fatha that is here. So it's like وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. So that's the first way that is permissible. What's the second permissible method? The second permissible method is that you break everything. So you read everything separately. For example, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. That's the second way. The first way we recited all the three together. The second way we recited everything separately. The third way, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. The third way, we recited the end of the surah, we stopped, then we recited Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and we followed it by what? By the beginning of the surah. Now, which of the ways is not permissible? Let's go back to the slide before I say it. So which of the ways did we say is not permissible? This, joining the last verse of the previous surah with basmala, then stopping. So the impermissible way is saying وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ and stopping. And why did the scholars of tajweed say we should not recite like that? The scholars of tajweed asked us not to recite that because what? So the person that is listening to you might end up assuming that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is part of what? The last, like the end of that surah. So it's imperative for you to either read Bismillah Rahman in the beginning of the surah because it's clearly known everywhere. It's a standard, like surah starts with Bismillah Rahman Rahim. But ending a surah with Bismillah Rahman Rahim can make the listener assume to think that Bismillah Rahman Rahim is the last verse of that surah. And for that reason, it's impermissible for you to read Quran and then when you're ending a surah, you end it and say Bismillah Rahman Rahim and stop and continue. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's going to be like where we are ending today, inshallah. I said I promised to be 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know if I've spent more than that, but I promised to make it short because like in the next class, inshallah, I'll be moving to like the rules of Nun Sakina and Tanween, inshallah, in the next class. That'll be next week, inshallah. But for today, let me do a quick recap of what we learned today. Okay, as I said, like this book is actually like what I use majorly is like the interpretation of like the book of Hidayat Mustafid. And when we started, we asked ourselves what is tajweed, and we explained like in simple word means coming good, close to perfection, and in detail it means tajweed is what it is, a science with which you know how we give every alphabet its right and what it deserves in terms of attribute, elongation, and so on. It is a science that guides you to know how to recite the Holy Quran perfectly. So tajweed, the reason we're learning tajweed is what? For us to be able to like read the Quran perfectly. What is the goal of tajweed? The goal of tajweed is what? Bulughun nihaya. Is for you to reach the limit of perfection in the recitation of and articulation of the book of Allah as it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the goal of you learning tajweed is for you to be able to like read Quran perfectly as close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It could also be said that the goal of tajweed is guarding your tongue, anil khata, from making mistakes fi kitabillahi ta'ala, in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's what it's being able to like learning the science that teaches you to like that saves your tongue from making mistakes from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually what it's. And we talk about the ruling of tajweed, saying like it's not compulsory for everybody in the world to learn tajweed. But once you've learned tajweed, it is very, very compulsory for you to for you to implement it. So it's the ruling of Sharia on tajweed is what fardu kifaya. When some people are doing it, it's not compulsory on others. If like a certain number of people are doing it, there is not compulsory on others. But once you've learned it, the implementation is what is fardu ain, compulsory. And we talked about reading of isti'adha and basmala. Let us make it an interactive session. Can someone explain like some of the things we talked about earlier about isti'adha and basmala? Who is willing to go?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Istiaza is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And basmala is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Yeah, that's correct. So isti'adha is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and basmala is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Another volunteer, I want to know like if a reciter is to start with isti'adha, basmala, and a new surah. So it means you want to say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and you want to read a surah. What are the 4 ways? Like, what are the 4 permissible ways of doing it? With example. So I want somebody to go. I don't need to call names. Is anybody willing to volunteer to explain this part to us?
Assalamu
alaikum.
I can try.
Okay, go ahead, ma.
Okay, so we say the isti'adha, basmala, and the surah together, the beginning of the surah together. That's one.
Okay.
We can say the isti'adha and basmala together and the surah separate.
Okay.
We can say isti'adha separate, basmala and the surah together.
Okay.
And then we can say which was that song? All of them together. Have I said that one?
Yes, you said
all of them separately.
So it means you can either say everything separately, or
Yeah.
say it together, or add any 2. So that makes it 4 combinations.
Mashallah.
Mashallah. So, and the final place, I didn't write this properly. I mixed this up. I think that was why I was like surprised. I was trying to figure out what this is not correct. What I was trying to write here is that like you join all 3 together. That's what I meant here. Okay, so there's somebody else like volunteer to like explain joining of 2 surahs. End of a surah, Bismillah, then another surah. Can someone just explain, just a quick recap, and then we do dua and then we end our session here. Any volunteer? Any volunteer? Okay, in the absence of volunteers, let me just explain it again. You can decide to join all 3 together. You can join Bismillah and the first verse of the surah together. It means you read the last verse of that surah, you stop. You read Bismillah and then you read the first verse of the surah. You can read everything separately. And one is not permissible. The one that is not permissible is joining the last verse with Bismillah, because scholars they say that the person listening to you might assume that Bismillah is part of this previous surah that you were reciting. So we'll be stopping here, inshallah. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'na wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Allahumma adkhilna al-jannata ma'al abrar. Allahumma ij'alha hujjatan lana la hujjatan alayna. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana jami'a. So I want to take questions before we end our session. Does anyone have like any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I apologize if my question is seeming somehow, but I've always wanted to ask this question.
Okay.
Is it compulsory to recite the Quran with the, can I just say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillah, instead of saying A'udhu billahi, like using the, is it compulsory? Because I don't know how to do it, sincerely. I've tried so many times. I can't recite Quran for long using the singing tone. I wasn't taught like that, so it's hard for me.
Okay, so you're asking like, is it compulsory to recite Quran like that or not?
Yes.
Okay. So my response would be, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet to read the Quran, he said, أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. Said رتل القرآن ترتيلا, like he said, like recite the Quran like in a melodious way. And then what the Prophet said, when Prophet was going to make like instruction about the Quran, he said, Zayyinul Qur'ana bi aswatikum. Like,
Mommy,
by
Dada, leave.
beautify your beautify your like voice, beautify Zayyinul Qur'ana bi aswatikum. Beautify the Quran with your voices, like recite Quran in a melodious way. So I think I wouldn't say it's compulsory to read the Quran in a singing manner. I don't know how to explain it that way, but like I think it's very good for you to like, try your best to recite it in the best way you can. Do you understand? So like I think the best way you can is it varies from person to person. But I think when you're reciting the Quran, since you're reciting the word of you're reading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it already has like a way of reciting it, I think you should try your best to like achieve something close to the best. Like try to read it in the best way you can. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it as an act of ibadah. Ameen. Does any other person have any question?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I saw Asma Ali raising her hands. Do you have questions? Okay,
No,
so,
I was just seconding what she said because I had an issue with that also. I wasn't taught in a melodious way.
okay.
So I always read it very fast, but now I'm trying to read it with better perfectly.
Now that make it easy. I would say you shouldn't read Quran too fast. You can read it slow, but you shouldn't read it too fast. And I would say in a melodious way. I know many people actually have that issue of reciting the Quran in a melodious way. I think that's actually true. But since you are learning the tajweed, don't worry. When you recite the Quran, there are people that don't have voice, but when they recite the Quran, because they recite it with tajweed, it's still appealing. Do you understand? So I think if you try to recite the Quran with tajweed, even if you're not like being like singy about it, like it comes out inevitably, like unavoidably. So with time, inshallah, I think all of these issues will be resolved, inshallah. That's the best answer I can give. I wouldn't say it's compulsory. I'll say you should try.
Inshallah.
Any other questions? Can we recite the Quran from our mind, like just be looking at it but not moving our lips? So my response to this is going to be,
Hello. Yes.
you cannot recite the Quran by moving your lips. You cannot recite it.
I want to say hello.
The reason for it's two ways. For example, if I think about something bad in my mind and I don't execute it, I don't get a sin for it. Do you understand? The same thing in Islam, like for a good deed. That if you like look at the Quran and you're not reading it, it means you are not actually executing the action. The action of reciting the Quran is like moving your lips. Worst case scenario, your lips has to move. And that's why some scholars have said that if you are praying salah and you are not moving your lips, then you don't have salah. Your salah is null and void. I think we will be doing fiqh sessions too, inshallah, so that we are going to learn all of these things. When you are praying on salah, you have to move your lips, even if it's a silent prayer. For example, if I'm praying Zuhr, you know Zuhr is silent. Allahu Akbar. You can't hear anything, but I'm moving my lips. So I'm executing the action. It's compulsory. You have to move your lips. So you cannot recite the Quran without moving your lips. I think I've made that clear. So unacceptable for you to recite the Quran without moving your lips. If you do that, you're not reciting the Quran. I hope it's clear. I hope it's clear. Now, so may Allah accept as an hujjah.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it as an hujjah for us and not against us, inshallah. So alhamdulillah for this session, for the success of this session, we made it short, and we are able to like bring like to you like so many information in a short time, because we know you are all busy, you want to sleep, you want to do so many things. So we'll try to make our tajweed sessions short, because what we're teaching is not actual tajweed amali. No, tajweed amali, you already know that your stars is teaching in your class. What we're teaching is, oh, this is the rule. Oh, let me implement it here. Oh, this is why I do this. It even makes it more interesting, and like it entices the journey, puts some kind of source in the journey. So may Allah accept it as hujjah for us and not against us. Amen. So salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
This is the end of our session. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum.